hiking today. Going hiking today. Ooh, yeah. So the way this corner looked, if you look at like there's little stumps, it was just a thicket of small trees like that. So if it's along the trail, we want to do at least a 20-foot buffer, getting rid of like those small short fuels, and that's for safety and also just general health of the forest when they burn it. So anytime you see like really small groupings of trees is called like a dog hair zone. So I might use that term for that. And the point of putting all the fine fuels here is that when they burn it, it'll actually, the fire will take care of all these small trees. So in a healthy forest, we don't want like a homogeneous, dense stand of similar height trees. Removing all hazard trees that potentially could fall across the line. So with that, we usually look at almost 100 feet on either side. You want to look at what's even like farther than that, especially if it's a tall dead tree, like if it's leaning into the trail especially and it's over 100 feet, we like to take those too. We want to low stump anything that's like visible from the trail. Yeah, 4 inches or lower if you can. The lowest possible, but not damage the saw or hurt yourself or something. You normally wouldn't want to have the canopy like continuity over the line, but since the fuels are pretty high up, I would say that it's okay to leave because both of these trees are over 20 inches. It's just one of those things like putting more fuel on the ground. We want to, if we don't think that the ladder fuels are going to make it go up into the canopy, then we have more stuff to cut. So it's like something we could come back to, but we probably won't. Yeah. Do you guys know the priorities of trees? Like in which we're supposed to take?
Like species?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like which ones you want to take more over others? Lodgepole, white fir, red fir. Like if you have to remove a stand of trees and you want to take out like a few of them, I would prioritize like lodgepole and white fir. I'm out of shape. I'm out of shape. It typically has this like lighter color in its bark and it's like very flaky. Boink. A curvy part in the trail. We try to kind of create a straight line whenever we can. And it didn't really make sense for us to like cut these trees which are alive since we have this whole nice rocky buffer zone here. Okay. The space that we created down on that hill. Mm-hmm. And then we imagine it just like coming up through here along the ridge top. There wasn't much work to do here except some really annoying limbing. They're also like all ponderosa or Jeffrey, which is kind of the last thing we want to take in the prescription. Yeah. Unless they're dead and they're on the trail. Yeah. Shady spot or shady/sunny spot. To take a break and a snack. Snack break. Bye. I'll be the little caboose, in your words. So right now what we're doing is hiking a section of our unit that we're going to be working on this year that isn't on a trail. We have to flag it so we know where to go when we're going to come and cut out here. So we did it last year, and then we're going through again, flagging it again, and making sure it makes sense to us after, you know, just doing a whole season of work. The main things that we're looking for is as gradual of topography as possible. So it just sloping downhill gradually, trying to go for the open areas so we don't have to cut as much stuff. Just making sure a lot of the trees aren't touching, there aren't like really dense stands together. So this area here is really open. When we come back out here and cut, we have to do the least amount of work as possible. If anything, we'll be like moving dead stuff out of the way of the fire line or cutting some small trees to create a better fire break, and then removing snags as needed. This is another good, really open area, kind of from where Jake is to where Junko is on the right side. There's not too much stuff to take out. Maybe this big snag there, and then a few small trees. How's it looking back uphill? I can see it. In terms of that line versus the one we had originally marked, I think either one's doable, but I like the one that we're establishing now because the topography is more gradual. And
you were just like, oh, Mario fucked up.
You're like, you didn't fuck up. That's a thick boy!
It's thick.
Yeah. Get in there, Martha. We didn't take this one last year because we didn't have a saw that was big enough when we were first doing this line. Nope.
Oh, she's hollow!
The inside of this unit here, there were so many snags that it kind of does look like a logging operation, you know? But we did move a lot of stuff back, like trying to clear up this 20-foot area as much as possible. It's not like the best in every single area because we were limited to what space we had. This is what a lot of our areas are gonna look like because it's lodge poles. They grow really close together and really tall at the same time. Nice little moist trail. Oh boy, I'm really out of shape. Snow in the meadow, snow in the meadow, snow in the meadow. The majority of the unit that we're walking today, we completed last year, with the exception of a few areas. We're just kind of checking our work and explaining to the new people on our crew what it is we're doing and why, where we put material when we drop it or cut it down, and why we leave certain things and maybe just skip areas. For example, this area that I'm walking right now, it's a trail and there are a lot of dead trees to take, but we have a creek. And that creek is in a meadow, a huge meadow. And one of the things that we can't do is if we cut down dead trees, we can't leave them in wetlands because they're ecologically sensitive. And there's a lot of plants and stuff that grow there because there's an abundance of water. So we'd have to cut stuff down and move it really, really far away. But the places that we'd have to move it far away are where a bunch of other dead trees are. There's a high concentration of fuel, so there's just like tons of other small stuff. So we'd just be cutting things down, moving them to another area, and creating the same problem in a different zone. This is like one of the complicated parts of what we do for work, is deciding how to do the most and the minimum at the same time, if that makes sense. It's kind of confusing. But the cool thing is since this meadow is really large and it runs along the entire trail, we can end up using that as our control line, and then we don't use the trail, and they just have this big buffer zone of wetland. You think like the unit catching on fire, when it hits this meadow, it's not going to go through the meadow because it's extremely wet. So we're trying to use what we call natural barriers to our advantage, which is really helpful, and it helps us make like a ton of progress in a really big unit. See, this is what I was talking about up here. So like the meadow's right here, and then there's a bunch of trees that need to get taken right next to the meadow. But if we move these trees, they're gonna go up here, and there's like all of this dead stuff on the ground that's already like dead, dry, and ready to catch on fire. So you're just making what we call a jack straw, where you think in like pickup sticks, where you just like drop a bunch of sticks and they're all like on top of one another. It's the same thing, and then you're raising the fuel off the ground. When there's air underneath it, it's just gonna make it burn hotter and more out of control. And we don't want that. We want it to be like low to moderate, like flames less than a foot high, and in a controlled manner to keep everyone safe and to not start like a really big wildfire. Oh my God, there is so much dead stuff here on the ground. This is pretty crazy. Hey, I heard you like dead and down, so I got some dead and down for your dead and down. And this crazy leaner that scares the absolute crap out of me. Wow. So dexterous.
It scared me.